What's going on, guys? Shags here, coming at you with a trolley deck profile, and this has just been one that I've been having fun with and trolling people on DN with lately, and it is an Inaba White Rabbit deck. So if you guys don't know what this card does, it's a spirit, so you know you can't special summon it, goes back to the hand during the end phase, but it can attack your opponent directly. It's only 700 attack, but it can attack your opponent directly. So now if you look at this deck, you can already tell it runs 20 traps. So essentially the entire strategy of the deck is to negate everything your opponent does and or stun them, and then poke for 700 every turn you get. So that's 11 of your own turns, or 22 altogether. So it's not as good as Final Countdown, but Final Countdown's at 1, and it's not searchable, and I still run one Final Countdown just in case you draw it. So that's a plus. But yeah, so let's just get on with this deck profile. So up first, you have Inaba White Rabbit. Heart of the deck, you need this to win. It's only 700, can't get bottomless. It's searchable by the next card that I'll get to in a second. But it's basically, you just swing for 700 every turn, and it just goes back, and then you keep doing it, and you keep poking. So next card you got up, you got Aratama, used in every spirit deck. Also can't be bottomless, and when you summon it, you can search a spirit monster from your deck, except for Aratama. So if you summon this, you get a Inaba, and then the next turn you can start being annoying. And if your Inaba dies somehow, like deprison, which probably won't happen, or things like that, then you can summon Aratama, get another Inaba the next turn, because Aratama will always be in your hand. So that's cool. So you gotta run 3 of that, because it's like running a 6 Inaba White Rabbits, which is like having 6 Final Countdowns. So that's awesome. Yeah, so you gotta run 3. Up next, I got 3 Battle Fader, because this is the only monster that'll actually stay on your field, because when you normal summon a Inaba White Rabbit or Aratama, they go back to your hand, so you're always going to be open for direct attack. So of course you gotta run the Battle Fader to stop those attacks. Swift Scarecrow also works, but I really like Battle Fader. But yeah, I run 3 just so you can survive. And it also ends the battle phase, so yeah. Next up, I got Max C. So I run 3 Max C because if your opponent starts going all crazy and special summoning, then you can drop Max C, just draw a bunch of cards, draw a whole bunch of traps and spells that you might need, and just get over your opponent's monsters. Maybe then get your Inaba first turn. You can draw Inaba. And the thing I like about this deck, it's a stall deck, so you can keep stalling out your opponent until you draw an Inaba. So Max C, it's a very helpful card. It can stop your opponent from even playing, so that's cool. So yeah, you gotta run 3. Next up, we got Creature Swap. I love Creature Swap in this deck, because you have all your cards in your deck can be Creature Swapped. You don't really want to do Max C, but they all can. So if you summon a Inaba White Rabbit or Aratama, they go back to your hand at the end of the turn, and they won't go to your opponent's hand. So if you summon one of the spirits and Creature Swap it over, then at the end of the turn, you'll get your spirit back, and you get to keep your opponent's monster. So that's kind of nice. I don't run Snatch Steal because they gain 1,000, by the way, so Inaba, it basically stops all of Inaba's attacks. You just have to rely on the monster you take. But Creature Swap is a nice replacement because you get your monster back anyways. And if you play Aratama, get a search, then you can Creature Swap it back, so you can get your Inaba to your hand, and then Creature Swap it, and then get your Aratama back at the end phase, and you get to keep a monster. So yeah, gotta run 3 Creature Swap. One of the best cards in the entire deck. Up next, you got Pot of Duality. You literally don't special summon in this deck unless it's Battle Fader, so Duality is pretty much necessary. You play it, and then you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck and see, oh, there's an Inaba or an Aratama. Then you take it, and then you have your card for the game, and you can essentially win. So yeah, I gotta run 3. You got 1 Final Countdown. Pay 2,000 life points after 20 turns, including your first turn and your opponent turn. You win the duel. So it's essentially a Inaba White Rabbit. It's like a 7th one almost, except they can't negate Final Countdown once it's already happened. Inaba White Rabbit, they can somehow take out all your Inaba White Rabbits, but Final Countdown can win you the game after you play it, and you stall so much. Like, if you look at this, if you think about it, these can all be stalling for 1 turn, so that's 20 turns right there, and not to mention your Battle Faders and your Max Cs. So yeah, you gotta run the Final Countdown. And then you got Raigeki. It just essentially, it stops your opponent from doing anything. You can destroy all their monsters right away. So once they build up a board, say if you threatening roar, then you can Raigeki at the next turn, and it stops your opponent from doing anything. They lose all their monsters, and it's just super great, so I love it. You gotta run one, because you can only run one, so yeah. And on to the traps. These are all self-explanatory. Breakthrough skill, you can stop monsters, and you can use it again during your own turn. Vanity's Emptiness stops your opponent from special summoning, and since the only monster, and you too, but the only monster you'll ever special summon is Battle Fader, Vanity's works. You can also turn these into Swift Scarecrows if you really think that's going to clog, but the best part about Vanities is that it's only when a card hits the graveyard. Inaba and Aratama go back to your hand during the end phase, and Battle Fader gets banished when it dies, and this doesn't go from the field to the graveyard. So if they don't draw MSTs, you essentially could sit on a Vanity's Emptiness for the entire duel, which is crazy. So yeah, you gotta run 3. And they can't special summon the whole duel if you do that, so you gotta run 3. Up next, you got 2 Dark Bribes. Who cares if your opponent gets a plus? You can negate their spell or trap. That could mean anything. You can literally stop all their plays if you're lucky. Say if they're playing one of those old decks, they play Rekindling, you negate Rekindling, you win. So, sure, they get a plus, but plus ones aren't even that important in Yu-Gi-Oh! Anymore, and you're going to stop everything they're doing anyways. So why not run 2 Dark Bribes? So yeah, I run 2. Got 2 Mirror Force. This Wiretap down here might go, and I might run a 3rd Mirror Force, but I like Wiretap for if you don't want to get Mirror Forced yourself or deprisoned and let your Inaba live. But I run 2 Mirror Force because you're always wide open. So Mirror Force can basically clear their entire board, and it can just save you your life, and you can just keep playing and trolling the whole time. So yeah, you gotta run 2. 3 Threatening Roar. Your opponent can't attack that turn you activate it, so you gotta run 3. Basically just like I get an extra turn, so that's awesome. 3 Phoenix Wing Wind Blast. Say if you have like 2 Aratamas in your hand, you only need 1. You can discard an Aratama and then Phoenix Wing Wind Blast them. Say if you have a Duality in your hand, you already have all the stuff you need. You don't need Duality, you can discard Duality. Say if you have any of these cards that you don't need, like say if you don't want to use a Dark Bribe or something, then you can discard it. You can discard Breakthrough Skill, use it from your graveyard, and this can set your opponent back a turn if you target the right card. So yeah, you gotta run it. You have to. So I run 3. And then for the one-ofs, you got Torrential Tribute because you're not really going to have monsters on board ever, so it's essentially a Raigeki on your opponent's turn. And I don't know if anyone's noticed, it's got the exact same picture as Raigeki, so that's awesome. But yeah, so it's a Raigeki on your opponent's turn essentially, so I run it. It's usually not that good anymore in this metagame because you lose your own monsters and lose advantage. But if you don't have monsters on the field, you don't lose anything. So you gotta run it. I run Compulse because you can bounce monsters back, and it's just super helpful. Bouncing monsters, you can set them back a turn like Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, so you gotta run it, and it has no cost. Solemn Warning, negate any monster, so say if they go for some big XYZ play to summon one monster, you can be like, nope, and just get rid of it. Bottomless Trap Hole, because you can just take out any monster, and 1 Wiretap, because like I said before, if you're swinging with your Inaba White Rabbit or something, or you creature swap, and they activate like a 7 Tools or a Dark Bribe or something, you can just chain Wiretap and get rid of it, so it's pretty good. I'm thinking about taking it out for a Mirror Force, I probably will. But yeah, so that's the entire main deck. Extra deck, there is none. You never have enough cards in the field to Synchro or XYZ summon. The only thing you could ever do is maybe set a Maxi and then set another one and just have a Gotchi. What I would recommend, I didn't do it, but what I would recommend is to fill your entire extra deck with any extra deck cards you want so people don't think you're playing a troll deck and then they find out that you're playing a troll deck. But yeah, so you don't need an extra deck. And that was the entire deck profile. I think I touched on everything I needed to. So yeah, it's essentially just a troll deck. A lot of troll decks can get you a lot of rating on DN or Dev Pro if you use it. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, so you might want to use this for fun, play against friends. It's a real budget if you want to build it in real life. I mean, look at this. The entire core is like 10 cents. Maxis, it says $7, but you can get the one from the tin for like a few bucks, or you can just buy a Hanzo tin offline for like $20 and get a bunch of cards too. So yeah, that's cool. And then everything else is real budget. Like literally, look at that. Only Raigeki is the only one. Like, these are all $3. No extra deck, so you don't need any of those expensive extra deck cards. So, yeah, it's pretty budget, pretty trolly. Play it against your friends, win a whole bunch of games, make people cry, and the whole thing. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Tell me in the comments if there's a better card to put into this deck. Share, because sharing means caring. And this is Shanks, and I'm out. Peace.